not know Larry McBride, but he is one of the biggest names in all of motorcycle drag racing. He has the fastest motorcycle in the world. He goes 264 miles an hour in 5.5 seconds from a dead stop on a monstrous, huge motorcycle. They call him Spider-Man because he climbs all over the motorcycle when he goes from 0 to 264 miles an hour in 5 seconds. And he climbs all over it to make it go straight. Usually makes really nice laps too. He's got a great team, a lot of experience, been racing for years. He and I raced together back when the motorcycle wheels were wooden, I believe, that long ago. Also, I wanted you to see the blue digits is one of the best runs that I made on Bagzilla, which is the bike I sold to the boys out west. And Iron Man rides it now, and it belongs to the Briggs racing team over there, Tammy and Chuck. And the 935 was just, I think I did it 3 or 4 times in 3 or 4 races. Hey, George laughing at me. Darren, Bruce. So what I wanted to show you guys is interesting about this is I get a lot of calls and a lot of emails, and a lot of people text me and message me and email me, and they want to know, George, what's the best gearing for my motorcycle or for my car for the 1/8 of a mile? I think I want to accelerate as fast as I can, and I want to get the quickest time I can in the 1/8 of a mile. Well, guess what? Me too. And so does everybody else. Larry McBride set the record, 367 in the 1/8 of a mile. That's I think he went 215 or 217 miles an hour in 3.6 seconds from a dead stop. My point that I want to make is when he got the quickest and best 1/4 mile time, he also got the best 1/8 mile time. Not because of anything other than so much of the work is done when we're going slow. And I can repeat that and say it to you again, but most of the work is done when we're going slow. Now, the reason I put Larry McBride, Spider-Man's top fuel motorcycle, period. Top fuel motorcycle runs on nitromethane. It's blown. It's in fuel injected. It's a small 4-cylinder engine, and he's got 50 pounds of boost, 40 pounds of boost. I don't know how many pounds of boost. It's a lot, but it makes a lot of horsepower. Anything that goes 260 miles an hour in 5 seconds, it weighs over 1,000 pounds, is pretty crazy. But what I wanted to use that as a reference for is people say, yeah, but my motorcycle's different or my car's different. Well, you might be, but here's what I have found through lots of research, and I want to share this with all of you guys. 65 to 68% of the work is done in the first half. If you're in the 1/8 of a mile, you will see that Larry McBride went 330 feet in 2.5 seconds. He went 660 feet in 3.6 seconds. The front half was 68% of the 1/8 mile. The first 330 feet took 68% of the time to get to the 660. Do you understand what that means? In other words, I don't care how it pulls hard from the get-go. The thing's heavy, 101 60-foot. To make that much power, they'd say, yeah, you could probably go 0.9s, 0.8s, whatever. But look, it's heavy. It's got 1 tire. It has a lot of horsepower, and they have to dial the clutch in perfectly to make it dig out that far. Okay, I see Stuart, Julie, and Jerry, and several people. But also I want to show you on the blue numbers, the 152, 398, and the 604 and the 935. I want you to also notice, I'm going to move this a little bit so all these names won't get in the way of what I'm looking at. I went 604 in the 1/8 mile on a Harley-Davidson drag bike, street bike combo. It's no wheelie bar, street legal, Harley-Davidson bagger that I can ride, and it's real fast in a 1/4 mile. When I went 935 in the 1/4 mile, I went 604 in the 1/8. Both of those are really, really good numbers. The 604 was 65% of the 1/4 mile, and the 330 number was 66% of the 1/8 mile. That's on a normally aspirated, all-motor, street tire, Harley-Davidson bagger that weighs 800 or 900 pounds with me on it. Then you go back and look at Larry McBride's top fuel motorcycle. He ran 550, but 67% of that 1/4 mile run 67% of that run was used up in the first 660 feet. And 68% of that 660 feet was used up in the 330. So there's 68, 67%. The street bike, it's not as fast through the gears. It was 65 and 66%. Stacy and Dale. Man, it's good seeing you guys' names on here. That's really, really nice. My little motorcycle only went 146 miles an hour in a quarter, and Larry's motorcycle went 264 miles an hour in a quarter. But the ironic thing to me, and to the people that don't really look at this angle of it, it'd be easy to miss the fact that it's 65% of the work is done in the front half. And on the same on Top Fuel motorcycle, it's got 5 times more horsepower and goes way quicker and faster. Still uses 68, 67%. So through my research, I have found that most quarter mile times and most eighth mile times have 65 to 68% of the work to obtain that time is done in the first half of that run. So if you're only racing 660 eighth mile racing, get your time slips out and look and divide the 330 by the eighth mile, and you'll get 65 to 68%. On the street bike, divide the 398, 330 by the eighth mile, and it'll be 604. That'll be 66%. So let me put a little number out here so that it won't look so dumb. This is a 60-foot number. This is a 330 number. This is a 660, and this is the quarter mile 1320. Okay, same as this. Larry McBride went 101 and 60 feet. He went 252 and 330 feet. He went 367 and 660 feet. He went 1,320 feet in 5.5 seconds. The street bike, 60 feet, took me 152. So it took me a half a second longer to get to the 60-foot clock than it did Larry. 330 clock, I went 398. It's almost 4 seconds. He went 2.5 seconds. So he beat me 1.5 seconds to the 330. That's how fast that motorcycle is. Then in the eighth mile, it took me 6 seconds to get to the eighth mile, and it only took him 3.6 seconds to get there. So he would have drove away from me by 16 bus lengths to the eighth mile. In the quarter mile, it took me 9.3 seconds to go the quarter mile. It took him 5.5 seconds. So you can see a dramatic difference. But the common denominator is how much percentage of time it took to obtain these. 68% in the front half of the 660, 67% of the front half of the 1320. With the street bike, 66% of the first 660 was taken by the 330, and 65% of the quarter mile was taken in the first 8. Okay, everybody got that? People saying stuff. I'm reading. They're saying that you would do this if you did this, and you would do this, you did that. That's right. All of that's true. You would run a better back half if you went into the back half going faster than you did on a bike going slower. But it's still, look at what I'm saying. The work is done in the front half. Even Larry McBride with a 2,000 horsepower, 3,000 horsepower motorcycle, 68% of his effort was spent going to the 330 clock of his eighth mile. 67% of his quarter mile was spent just getting to the eighth mile. Yeah, that leaves 30. What does that leave? 30. I'm not good at math on the fly. Somebody tell me. 33%. 33% of his quarter mile run was done in the back. 33%. That's half the percentage it spent getting to the front half. So the thing is Larry McBride went 49 mile an hour faster in the back half. He went into the quarter mile run going 217, and he goes out the back going 264. So he picked up 49 miles an hour. And the poor little bagger there, the Harley Davidson Road King, I picked up 27 mile an hour from the finish from the eighth mile to the finish line in the quarter. All right, I just wanted you guys to know that this is Top Fuel cars, funny cars, pro stock motorcycles. All of them are between these two numbers, 65 and 68, all of them, okay? Now, if a guy let off or if he spun the tire and went sideways, that's all good, man. You can say, yeah, there's an exception to every rule, George. But please remember two things that are very important. These are my opinions that I back up with data that I look at. You can dig and find something that wasn't a good run and show me where I'm wrong. But if you pick out Larry McBride's best run, and you pick out my best run, and you break down the percentage of the front half of the 660 and the front half of the 1320, they're close. And if you pick out the front half of the 660 on my motorcycle and the front half of the quarter mile of my motorcycle, we're between 65 and 68%. So we're not going to do this right now. We're not going to have that math, or we're not going to go and look at all these other time slips. I just want you guys, when you get done and you want to get a calculator out and pull your time slips and look, and if you have your best run you've ever made or one of your best runs, it will be representative of this 65 to 68% of your work is done in the front. Now, why did I say that 30 times? Well, one reason is because I say it to people and tell people all the time, and they don't hear it, they don't want to hear it, or they're deaf to it, or it goes in one ear and out the other, and it makes no sense. Because how could a man say that you only run 33% of your quarter mile run is done in the back half? Well, heavy stuff. There's some physics involved. Things at rest tend to remain at rest, and things in motion tend to remain in motion. So if it's sitting still and you got to get it going 260 miles an hour in only 5.5 seconds, it's going to take a minute to get going. Just how it works. I don't know if you've ever watched a train leave dead stop, and it'll still go 100 miles an hour. It might take it a few miles because it only does a 60-foot time. A big train may do a 60-foot time in 3 minutes or 4 minutes. They really start off slow, not like Larry McBride's bike. People talk about back half cars and front half cars and all that. Well, get the numbers of how quick they went in a quarter and look at how quick they went in the eighth, and it's still going to be between 65 and 68%. Now, can we find exceptions? Yes. Look at a pro mod motorcycle. They run eighth mile only, right? Sometimes they run a quarter, but the eighth mile only guys, they want to run 5 gears in the eighth. I mean, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 3.9 seconds. That's a challenge, man. That means just shift. Just take off and shift. Bow, 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 and you're there. Why does it work this way? Why do we have, all right, what's this guy saying? He's going to call me out on it. Nope, he says the same thing. There's a guy, I don't know who he is, you ever heard of her, named Stevie Fast. I don't know if that's like Stevie Nicks, but Stevie Fast says the same thing, drives a Shadow. I'm kidding, I've heard of him. Y'all supposed to laugh. Why has this all come true, and why do I believe it with all my heart? Well, first of all, I got numbers to back it up. Second thing is, this is the physics of why. This is a chart that says the G-meter and the time. Okay? If you start the run at 0 G-force and you accelerate rapidly to the most G-force you can get in a quarter of a mile or an eighth mile, but in a quarter of a mile, what I found is if I use up all the gears and all the acceleration and all the horsepower and all my everything to where I have the least amount of G's at the finish line. Now, people that want to run big speed and they want to be going faster and faster and faster, they might gear it or something where they can go over here and have some G-force left at the finish line. But I believe that the guy that tries to gear for get time for this work that's done after the finish line, he's going to get beat right here. Because the guy that gets, listen to this carefully, the guy that gets the most G-force first and stays at high G-force the longest is the guy that's going to get the low ET. The guy that gets the most G-force first and stays at the highest G the longest, this is time, this is G-force. If you can get it to pull, the hardest it's going to pull soon. I even ask people that argue with me about it, I say, hey, what bike what gear does your motorcycle pull the hardest in? Oh, mine pulls harder in second than any other gear. And I said, second? Why does it pull harder in second? Oh, man, it just pulls harder in second. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. It pulls harder in first gear. And it has less G-force in second, has less G-force in third, has less G-force in fourth, has less G-force in fifth, and then 6 gears out here, if you have a 6-speed. It's a multiplication factor that you can't argue. You have X amount of power and you have gear ratio, and it will accelerate harder in first gear than it will in second gear or third gear or fourth gear. Okay, my point is not here to argue if you can dig around in Google and dig around in the record books and find an exception to the rule, but we can call out something else that's like 98%. 98% of the time these numbers apply, okay? Now, G-force is not torque. G-force is the acceleration rate of the machine, and torque and horsepower doesn't have anything to do with it, except for it does. But you want it to pull the hardest, soonest, because you will cover the most ground. Like this, like look right here. This right here has more G-force than anything, right? It took 68% it took 67% of a full quarter-mile run just to get to the half track. 67% of the time to get to the full quarter-mile was spent just getting the half track. And if Larry would share his G-meter with the world, his G-meter would show something like this. It might be higher through here. Oh yeah, Larry's got way more G-force up in here. So does a top fuel car and a funny car. But the cool thing is, like on a funny car or a top fuel car, their RPM would look like here, and it would just barely climb to here, and then it would be done. The tire speed, and it would almost mirror the G-force. And if you get little spikes in the G's, you'll have a little spike in the wheel, a little spike on the shift, and a little spike in the wheel. All right, time over distance. Hey Kyle, hey Joe. Anybody wonder what I'm achieving? I got a little street bike, and this is what I achieve, and it's nothing like what Larry achieves. But everybody's in between this, okay? A 9-second street Harley and the fastest motorcycle in the world. And the quickest motorcycle in the world. This is not the quickest and fastest motorcycle in the world. This is not the quickest and fastest Harley Davidson in the world. It's not the quickest and fastest street legal Harley in the world. It's just the fastest bagger that I own, me, that Star Racing has. And these are good times, and we ran good with it. So, somebody says archiving. Yeah, we put every episode on YouTube. I think this is number 36 or number 37 in a row. I've been trying to keep these going. Hey, Mark, I was talking about your motorcycle just a little while ago, all about the running a pro mod in a quarter mile and how good you do that. You have to gear different for that. Yes, you do. You want to run good in the 8th also, but man, you got to have a little bit of that tongue left hung out before you get to the quarter mile in order to go really fast, don't you? But it's still cool, Mark, to get that thing stretched out there and run a quarter mile. But your G-meter will still look kind of like this, Mark. I don't ever seen your G-meter, but I can only imagine that. Okay, that's enough on that. I had a good friend tell me one day, he said, George, you do good info, but you lap the plane too many times around the airport. He said, sometimes you got to remember to land the plane. Okay, so I'm going to land the G-force and the 65 to 68%. I'm going to land that plane now and move on to the next subject. All right, another good conversation I have daily is compensator sprockets for Harleys. Now, if you're not a Harley guy and you don't care about Harleys, you can click off now. But look, this is just going to be some good tech talk that will feed your gearhead. Okay, this is just stuff that feeds your gearhead noggin, and that's why I love it. I need some more food. Somebody asked me, said, you think you know everything? I said, no, I know 1% of what I want to know. I know 1% of how much I want to know. I mean, my 1% might be a lot because I've been doing it for over 40 years, but it's still not everything. It is just a small piece of everything I want to know. If the good Lord will let me continue to live, I'm going to know more than I know now because I learn every day. All right, what I drew right here is this is a compensator off of a twin cam. Here's a compensator. This is part of a 3-piece compensator. This is compensator off a Milwaukee 8. All right, well, you guys have seen me advertise and talk about, wow, 10 of you jumped off. I should have gone back to the G-force, huh? Watch this. G-force. See if y'all can jump back on. Nope? Okay. It's a 30-second delay. But anyway, this is good info, too. Why do you say to run a stock compensator on a twin cam, and you always say to put a solid sprocket on the front of an M8? Well, I broke about 5 compensators in my life, and all 5 of them were this. They look the same. Don't they look the same? It's got 3 lobes. It's got splines. This one's well used. And this one's got 3 lobes. It's got splines. Of course, it's new out of the box. All right, here's the difference, y'all. At the skinniest part, the weakest part, is 500 thou thick. It's a 1/2 inch. Just a 1/2 inch right here. The Milwaukee 8 is the same part, but they just took all this mass out of it because they're looking to save weight. So they got this down to 0.312 or 5/16. So if we put them together, it's obvious to see, and I know percentages, I'm a percentage guy. This one right here is only 62% of this one. Yep. I took 0.312 and divided 0.500 into it, and I got 62%. So what I want, and Baker or some gear guy, I don't have to do everything. I don't have to want to do everything. I don't mind sharing. That's why I do Tech Talk Tuesdays. Somebody make me one of these about 10 or 20% thicker, please. 10% thicker would jack that thing up to 0.34. 10% would add 31 thous to this, 31 thou. And you know what? It might last. And then the next story is going to be, why do you want a compensator? Well, the twin cam engine, let's see, it's a 45 degree twin cam, 45 degree V-twin, the M8 and the twin cam. So it has, I've told you this before, it's 2 cylinders, all right? The front one, the back one fires, and then the front one fires. Let's do a side view just so I can catch you up on it. The rear cylinder fires first, and then it goes 360 degrees plus 45 for the front one to fire. Then it goes 360 degrees minus 45, the rear one fires. And then it goes 360 degrees plus 45, the front one fires. The rear one fires, sorry. And it goes rear, front, rear, front, rear, front. And that uneven firing is bang, 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 bang. And what it does is it hammers all these parts. It literally hammers all these parts. Now, a compensator is sitting inside, bolted to your crankshaft, and just for nothing better to hold in my hands, it's going like this. And they make a lot of noise, especially if you put a big cam and high compression in it and it's sitting there idling. It's going knock, 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 knock. And it makes a lot of racket in there. But if you don't have one of these and you put a solid sprocket in its place, the crankshaft is now going like that. Instead of the compensator doing the ratcheting and the give and take and the give and take. Your compensator is made to go give and take, give and take. When you take that off and put the solid sprocket on that I read about and see, and everybody post and they boast, I just got me somebody's V-twin service makes these solid sprockets and it makes your bike faster and all that. No, it doesn't make it faster. It makes it tear up the next thing. And I'm not bagging on somebody's product. These are my opinions. If you put a solid front motor sprocket on it, the next thing that's going to break is going to be something in the cam chain. The drive train. Nope. The primary chain, the primary system, the primary tensioner, the primary chain tensioner, the clutch basket, the inner hub, the outer hub. It's going to explode the gear and the springs and all the hubs. And then you buy the new trick of the week billet clutch basket, and then you put that in and that stops the clutch basket from breaking. So what's the next link that passes down the line? Okay, the primary chain tensioner breaks next because now there's no give and take in the basket. There's no give and take in the crankshaft or nothing. So the next thing that blows up is either the rear belt, and then you put a chain on it. Well, we can break anything. Drag racers and good tires and good prep tracks can break anything. We can break chains, we can break transmissions, we can break crankshafts, we can break everything. And especially if you put a super powerful V-twin in there that fires every now and then. Think about it, you guys. The Kawasaki, Suzuki's, Yamahas, they got 4 cylinders and they have 180 degree intervals. They fire, 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 and it's so smooth it runs like an electric engine. compared to the V-twin, which is bang, crashes everything, bang, it breaks everything, bang, it breaks again. And the whole time, even when you're idling, it's trying to brake. It's ratcheting, it's give and take, give and take. So we need a compensator, all right? Now, once you fix all those things, I got me a really stout chain, I got me a solid front sprocket, I got the best primary system, I've got a clutch basket that won't blow up, and now what breaks next? Third gear, transmission brakes. It breaks shafts, it breaks inputs, it breaks outputs, it breaks gears, it breaks sliders. All those parts break because they're teeny weeny little parts made to make 70, 80, 100 horsepower. And now you're going to be shoving 200 horse through it, 800 or 900 or 1,000 pounds with a tire that don't spin, a clutch that doesn't slip, and a compensator that don't compensate. Say that back to me. A compensator that doesn't compensate. You take the compensator off and put a solid sprocket on. What happens to the compensation? Well, it comes right out of your wallet. Next thing you'll do is be flashing that credit card and going on the internet and ordering all these cool parts just so you can break the next thing and then break the next thing, then break the next thing. Yeah, I'm on the tire. This is what I call being on the tire about it. I get excited about it. It breaks your wallet. Yep, I used my credit card so much when I was racing pro stock motorcycles. I used my credit card so much that I had to get dual intercoolers and I had to put water cool on my credit card. I had 5 credit cards and they were all running hot. I had to keep them cool. All right, back to this last thing I want to say about the compensator and all that stuff. These are my opinions. I'm not bagging on people that make cool products. You're not stupid if you don't run one. I just think that a lot of people are uninformed. They don't realize how much they're tearing up. This motorcycle right here, Bagzilla, today, right now, every run it's ever made and every run it probably will make has a stock transmission in it. It has a bone stock clutch basket, bone stock clutch plates, and it has one of these in it. And guess what breaks? Other people's heart, because it's fast. Anyway, thank the good Lord we can learn all this stuff and share all this stuff. Hey, write me back, fuss at me. Tell me what I said wrong. Tell me what you want to know about next. Before I hang up, I'm going to show you something really interesting here. It's like 5/16. I get the twin cam part. 1/2 inch. That's 62% stronger. So same part, same material, same heat treat. One's thin, one shatters like glass. The other one, if it was a little thicker, it would have lasted longer. But if somebody will help us build a better compensator for the Milwaukee 8, we can have compensation that will save us a lot of money and a lot of parts. That's a great tip from me. Thank you all for watching. Tune in next week. I'll do the same thing again. Oh, here's a used compensator. People call me up or write to me and they say, my compensator's worn out. All right, what about this? What's worn out about this? They said this one's worn out. Man, that thing looks good. The only thing wrong with it is too thin right here, and it's probably going to break. But they're so thin, right in that range, they break in 3 parts. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, thank y'all. May God bless. Everybody stay safe. Stop the spread. Stay in your lane and give the Lord blessing. Thank you. I'm blessed and thankful and get to share with y'all. Thank y'all so much. Hey, write me private message. Send me an email, george@starracing.com. Send me some info. Send me something you want to know. I'll try my best to share it with you. Y'all have a great night. Thank you. See you next week.